everybody. Mark Michaels here, Performance Horse Central, joined today by Richard Jordan. Richard, welcome.
Thank you.
So Richard, as many of you know, he's one of the top 2-year-old guys that come to Western Bloodstock every year and light up the tote board with a bunch of zeros on there, bringing the quality to town all the way from Idaho. It's become a real anticipation, watching to see what you have every year on social media. And then we get down here to the sales, and I know there's a bunch of guys sitting at the Western Bloodstock booth just going through your videos and looking at them. The reason why is because you've consistently brought the quality here. Itchy's My Choice, Dual Smart Kitty, The Animal, Kona, Stylish Haley with James Payne. These horses have all gone on to win a lot of money and do really well in the show pen, so obviously people are looking at your program. What's that like for you?
Well, that's really good. Yeah.
It's a testament to your training program,
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how did you get started? What made you want to be a horse trainer?
Well, I always had it in the back of my mind, and I farmed a lot as a kid. One summer I was putting up hay all summer and just didn't really like that very good, and then I went up to my grandparents up at Westfall, and we were I was dragging fields for them or something, and then I go chucker hunt whenever I got done, and then the last day my grandpa said, let's go sort some pears. We got a bunch of pears to sort. And at that time I'd never seen a cutting horse, but those old horses would kind of help you, kind of give you that. They were a little ahead of you, and I thought, if there's a job where you can do this, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, so that's what got you started. Where did you grow up?
Adrian, Oregon.
Adrian, Oregon.
Yeah, right. Home of the state champs.
Cheap plug. Cullen, you're watching. But and so what was the next step for you then, going from that stage into figuring out a way to get to train horses?
Oh shoot, I don't know. My parents bought helped me buy a few horses in high school. Well, I bought a few, but anyhow, we got started getting some horses, and I started riding horses for people down the road or whatever, and on weekends before school, whenever I had time, and just kind of kept going that way.
Did whatever you could to get horseback and get a cow and go play a little.
Yeah. Well, and the cutting deal really didn't come till after I had kind of got going, starting colts pretty good. I had decided I wanted to do it, but I didn't have any idea how, and so you just got started. Starting colts was the first thing. Yeah,
and that's obviously what your program revolves around now.
Yeah. So exactly.
So you went on. You've got 141,000 in NCHA earnings. How did you get to that next step where you went and started showing a little bit? Do you remember when you first started?
Yeah. I'd been working for a guy in our area, and I had some that I was starting to try to train, and it just wasn't working, and I worked for a guy in our area for a while, and decided that I needed an actual cutting bred horse, and so after I quit working for him, my dad and I went and bought a horse that was cutting bred. We went and got that horse, it was kind of cool. He was tied to a bale of hay there. The guy, kind of was a low budget deal, but he had some good bred horses. Yeah. And that horse was tied to a bale of hay there, and I took him home, and about a month later, that sucker would hold a cow. And about maybe 4 or 5 months later, I took him to my first show, marked a 45. The judge marked me a 45. But the next month I went back and I marked a 67.
Yeah.
And then that next spring after that, I went back and I could show with them. I'd marked a 71 or 2. And it was there, that old guy named Kenny Dunn saw me, and he was kind of one of my first customers that kept me in the business for a long time.
Yeah. And so, you do show quite a bit, in local clubs around your area in Idaho, and
I only show mostly at the Boise Valley Club, and then you know, now I go down and judge the Grassroots Club. It's the two clubs in our area, and I try to stay pretty involved with those two clubs because it just helps grow the business. When you grow the smallest part of the business,
sure.
You know, it grows the whole business. And,
yeah.
And I like the beginning part of it really well. I like to see somebody come in there that you know, doesn't have maybe the best horse or the best, you know, they don't even know how to start. A little bit like what I was when I started. I like to see them come in there and kind of take that first shot. And it seems like you always have, you know, one of those kind of runs every month there where you're kind of on the edge of your seat for them, wondering whether they're gonna come back and do it again, or whether they're gonna be like, no, this ain't no fun.
that's enough, yeah. Well, and you've also, you know, every year you show up there at the Idaho Futurity, and you're consistently making, you know, intermediate finals, open finals. I mean, you've been pretty successful there as well.
Well, for the last 3 years anyhow.
Yeah. Well, that's still, I mean, you know, but how important is that part of it, being able to go out and show, and especially at the level with the aged events? How do you tie that back into your 2-year-old program?
It's really good to have a couple of horses around that are really good, that you're working, so you know where you're going. You know what you're shooting for on those young horses, because if you don't have that feel, you know, it's hard to ride those colts right. You can kind of get to doing random things that don't really go the right direction.
Right.
But if you've got that feel kind of there on a regular basis, at least to some extent, then you get on those colts and you're pushing them that direction.
Yeah. How you know, your 2-year-old program now, and what you've developed along with Todd Nelson, you guys got together. Talk a little bit about that, how that partnership formed, and how it became so successful. How did you meet up with Todd?
I was helping a gal up in our area with some horses, and she asked me to help him at a show because she'd hurt her knee or hip or something, and so then he. After he met me, you know, I think he kind of had the idea. He'd had the idea before he met me, but after he met me, he kind of had the idea to the point where he was like, came down here and bought 3 horses, and then called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to bring these horses back, you know, next year?"
Yeah.
And I couldn't really say no because it was in the middle of the winter when I needed horses to ride.
Yeah. So that program. You know, now you've got 12 this year, I believe, that you're bringing to the sales. Yep. That little partnership, I mean, it's developed horses that have won close to $3 million already. Just last year's crop that you brought here, how many did you have last year? You had 14, I think, or maybe a few more. But anyway, 9 of those were entered here in the Open Futurity this year, and 2 more in the non-pro Futurity. That's got to make you feel good about, you know, what you're doing. How does that kind of play into the confidence, you know, or give you confidence doing what you do?
Obviously, if you're successful, it builds confidence. I think the biggest deal that I could say there is if you're consistently riding good horses and it consistently feels good, you're going to be more confident. Like if I didn't have good horses this year, what I did last year wouldn't really matter that much as far as your confidence level goes. It just having consistently, you know, I think Todd brought me 24 head this year, and so all year I've been riding a lot of really good horses. And when you're consistently doing things on a day-to-day basis that look like, you know, what the highlight reels look like, it makes you confident, you know. If you've got one horse like that and then the rest of them, you know, it's hard to get to turn, you know, it's really hard to develop any confidence with a program, and it's really hard to develop a good feel. How what goes into the process of selecting the colts each year that you get to start for that? Is that all Todd, or how does that work? Yeah, that's all Todd. He's you know, he's been a big fan of this sale for a long time, a big fan of all the major events, and you know, like next year's colt crop, I'll see them when we get home. You know, I don't even have a very good idea. I think we hauled one little Cat King colt home last year when we went back. I've seen her. Yeah. But I haven't. That's not my department.
You just ride them. You just look at them as they come off the trailer at your place, and that's first time, right?
Yeah, and a lot of them we got to back them up to the door because they're not halter broke.
Well, and that's got. I mean, it's a great partnership. Obviously, you just delegate that whole side. That's Todd's niche. That's his part, picking those colts. And obviously, when he saw you, he saw that was the missing part to the puzzle to get those colts to that next level and bring them back to the sale. And you guys have done a really good job kind of converting that. What are some of the favorite things about training these 2-year-olds? What do you enjoy most?
You know, when you first start and you're trying to figure out what you've got, here in a couple of weeks or a month, when you're getting on them and you're starting to turn them and you're just seeing how they move or how they give, how they feel, and I mean, I think that's probably the most exciting part, other than when you first start one on actual cutting and you start to feel them really lock on. I mean, that's kind of the exciting part for me. It's like you're panning for gold. You're panning for gold, and when you find it, it jumps out at you. Yeah,
it's pretty easy to spot. So, talk about what are some of the challenges being located up in Idaho, and obviously your biggest part of the market is down here at these sales, in Fort Worth, Texas. What are some of the things that are tough about that for you?
For me, I think it's great. I'm so socially awkward that I would probably unsell the whole bunch if I had enough time. Right. And so it's real beneficial that I just come down here right before the sale and don't have enough time to really step on any toes or unsell any horses.
Sure.
I've done that a few times, unsold some.
Right. Well, yeah, that can happen too.
It can happen pretty easy.
Yeah, yeah. What about the weather up there? Does that affect your program at all?
Well, it does a little bit. We put lights on them and stuff, but I've tried to do this in such a way that I can afford to do it, and so I just put a good light system on them, and that's only been in the last couple of years. Before that, I was just blanketing them and hoping they kind of stayed okay, and it really hurts me when they're haired up and I can't lope them. Yeah. Because if they get hot, I can't get them cooled off. Right. And you're in there trying to get them warmed up without loping them, and that's a bit of a trick right there. Yeah. And it doesn't, other than the ones that handle it good, it's fine, but the ones that don't handle it good, you just bear it. And that's what happened with Stylish Haley. She didn't handle it good. I knew it as soon as I got on her that day. Yeah. I was like, this ain't gonna go good, and it didn't, but luckily somebody saw through it.
Yeah, well, James went on and did really well, and obviously, so that mare, just because she might have had an off day at the sale or a couple of days, that transition, but I mean, she didn't miss a beat once she got into the next program.
Right, and I think that's, I was talking with Todd, I hired a guy this year, my wife's cousin. I was talking with him about it, and we were talking about how hard it is, our job, getting them shown to people right. And I said, well, just imagine being the guy that has to tell somebody, yeah, let's spend $100,000 on this horse. Yeah. That's a little harder job yet. Yeah, yeah. So
there's a lot of risk. There's a lot that can go wrong there.
Yeah, yeah. I'd rather be me than them.
So what are some of the things you do when you're not riding horses?
Football.
Football.
I coached football for my boys when they were 5th and 6th grade. It's kind of a volunteer deal. I love to coach those boys, and then I've coached them in basketball every year since 1st grade or whatever. I love to coach. I guess I love to coach it because it's with my boys, and I love to watch them and their peer group come on and get better, and I like that a lot.
Yeah. Well, Richard, thanks for stopping by with us today. I know interviews aren't your favorite thing, but I think it's been great getting to hear a little bit more about your program and find out more a little bit about the story behind these colts that come to town every year and the sale toppers. And we wish you lots of success, and can't wait to see what you have.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
All right.